Hi, and welcome back to the HSP Connection with me, Philippa Robinson.
And me, Robbie Lee. This is where we share our stories, insights, and strategies to help fellow highly sensitive people navigate their own path to living a fulfilling and meaningful life.
We're on a mission to reclaim the word sensitive and help the world see the strength in sensitivity. So, Robbie, what are we talking about today?
Today, Philippa, we are talking about goal setting. It's kind of the time of year. So, as we're recording this, it's January of 2024. So, a lot of people talk about New Year's resolutions. It's for many companies, it's goal setting time. People set intention. It's just like that kind of energy is in the air. And so I thought it'd be a good chance to talk about that. And the kind of twofold. One, kind of talk about how what our relationship is with goal setting, intention setting, and then some strategies for other fellow HSPs on how we can do this well for ourselves.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like to set goals or not to set goals. Like,
Kind of does.
what is your intention? It's a bit.
Yeah.
And everywhere, you don't have to look very far at all to find somebody who'll tell you about setting goals or resolutions or intentions. And I agree with you. I think this is a great topic to have a conversation about. Even before we pressed record, we were already like going, yeah. So, there's a lot to be said. And I suppose all I'd say at the beginning is there's no right or wrong, is there?
Thank you for saying that. That's right. I think my hope is to help people get connected to what's true for them instead of all the outside voices, but really connect into what works well for them. And that may change over time. It's definitely changed for me over time. It continues to evolve. But giving people permission to really find the thing that works for them, which doesn't have to look like anybody else's thing.
No, absolutely doesn't. And we're going to come on to that. You've got a little process, haven't you, to sort of take us through towards the end. I think we thought we'd just kick off with a bit of a chat around goals and intentions and our feelings around all those things, because it can be quite complicated, can't it?
Yes. Yeah. I realize for me, the first thing that comes up for me when I hear the word goal is my time in corporate America. And, it was it's how all your money, your raises, right? Everything is tied to these yearly goals. And it was always a frustrating process for me on a number of levels. I think one was that you set these goals for the entire year at one point in time, and then it doesn't leave room for these things that inevitably happen and change and morph. Like there was no freedom there was no acknowledging the flow. And so it always felt like, oh my gosh, if I don't pick the right thing, then i'm I'm going to be beat up at the end of the year. It's going to affect me negatively. And then yeah, so it just felt heavy and scary setting those goals. Yeah.
I can imagine. And if you're setting them, I think by the sounds of it, it sounds like you're talking about setting goals for yourself, sort of like, but also bearing in mind that if you don't achieve those goals, what is going to be the ramifications of that? So probably there's not much inspiration there to sort of set stretch type goals, are there? Because you want to make sure you can achieve them.
It's totally right. Right. And I think one of the initial ideas behind goal setting was to, stretch and strive and do all that. But over time, as you see that people get knocked down for that if they don't make it, or you and I have talked about this before we started recording. It's like you work really hard to do the stretch thing. You did it. And then your reward is just, it's even harder next year, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I gave everything I could to barely eke that out. I don't have any more in the tank to expand from here. So yeah, I don't know. The process for me didn't encourage me in a way that worked well for me at all.
No.
How about for you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what you're describing there is exactly so the only real goal when I was a lawyer was the financial target. So how much have you billed? And, it was always quite a optimistic, shall we say, arbitrary figure that you're given, and if you achieve it, great, but then it's going to go up the next year. And if you don't achieve it, it's like, well, why haven't you achieved it? Well, I haven't achieved it this year because somebody has to do all this work over here that's really complicated or takes a long time and doesn't pay very well. Somebody has to do it. And this year you've given it to me, which is why I haven't achieved my target. Oh, well, and for me, they were always a stick to beat you with, or they felt like a stick to beat you with.
Yes.
And it was usually the message, when you haven't done enough this year. And when you're working yourself to the bone, really, which is what I did. Don't advocate it doing now, wouldn't do it now, I hope. But it was always really quite hard to hear that. And it doesn't leave me full of joy about setting targets, which is what we used to call them, financial targets, or setting goals, or even really setting my stall out is, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm in a business mastermind, and every Monday it's like, right, okay, what's your aims for this week? And I rarely, in fact, I think it's, what are your goals this week? And I very rarely go in that chat thread and say anything, because I don't want to set my stall out to say I'm going to do this, because what happens if I don't?
Right.
And I'm really trying to lean into that. This is what I would like to do. And then come back on Friday and go, okay, well, I did this and this, but I didn't quite get this done, or I didn't get any of it done.
Yes.
But that's okay. So I'm really trying to lean into that. This is what I'd like to do. Oh, but I haven't actually done any of it. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm not there yet. That's definitely a growth edge for me right now.
I can so relate. I mean, it's like I could have said that exact same thing out of my mouth. I really, really relate to that. And another thing that occurred to me when you were talking, like when you were like, I'm doing all this other work that has to get done, but maybe it's not the work that is spotlighted, right, and highlighted. And when you said that, I'm like, oh, that was true for me too. Like I cared so much about the people's experience at work, which really no one else gave a shit about except those people. But I mean, so my management up the line is just, I wasn't getting rewarded for that, right? It's just something that mattered to me.
Yeah, they don't see it. They don't see it, do they? No, I get that.
No, didn't see it, didn't value it, didn't care. And so now it's kind of like you and I are both business owners ourselves. And so making that transition to, and I've used this phrase before, like I'm my own boss. Right? So it's like right. So I don't have to berate myself if I dare to put a goal out there and I don't make it. But that fear is most definitely still there. It's like I fight the urge. I mean, I fight it just like you're talking about. I was like, I don't want to put a stick in the sand and say, this is what I'm doing this week. Because what if I don't? Yeah. But then what if I don't? Who's gonna, at this point, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, and you're so right. And I realized, reasonably recently that I don't set goals for my business, and what it is around that. And it's definitely about the not wanting to fail, I suppose, not wanting to not achieve that goal.
Yeah.
But I have also, on the flip side of that, begun to understand the whole, this is what I want to do, and putting that out into the universe and releasing that, and this is what I would like to achieve. This is what I want for me in my business, because this is what it will mean, or whatever that is. Yeah. And actually, I want to, I've spent a few years now sort of, I wouldn't say dabbling, that's not quite the right word, but scattering my energy and my, so my time, my attention, my money. And I would like to be much more intentional about it. And I wonder, and it's really interesting. I've just used the word intentional, which is,
Mm-hmm.
like intentions. And I'm now going to use goals. And maybe actually what I want is some goals. And that's a whole new way of thinking for me. I'm not quite sure what's brought it about, but I kind of like it.
It's almost like reclaiming goal setting in a way that
Yeah.
works for you. It's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And that's perhaps you've just hit the nail on the head, that it is goal setting, but it's in a way that works for me.
Yes.
And what works for me is going to be very different to what works for you, and it's going to be very different to what works for anybody who's listening or watching. So
Yeah.
it is about, honoring ourselves, and what we want, need, all of those things.
Yes. Beautiful. You did mention intentions, and it's definitely something that when I kind of veered away from goals in my own life, I latched onto intentions. Like that was a really rich and safe place for me to go. It sounds like maybe, was that kind of your process too? Have you been with intentions
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, intentions was more a move away from making New Year's resolutions, as opposed to moving away
Gotcha.
from goals. Because I think the whole goal thing was very much in my subconscious for a while. I hadn't realized that I was shutting it out. Whereas I was much more conscious about, having spent years making New Year's resolutions, about I will save, I will get fit, I will lose weight, I will join a choir, I don't know, whatever.
Yep.
That didn't last very long, because not got a great voice, all of those things. And definitely moving away from those, because I've realized I have this real push-pull relationship now with New Year and the new energy. I used to, because my Christmases were so awful as a kid. I always used to love New Year. My mum always used to prefer New Year, and it was always like, oh, great, Christmas is over, let's look forward to New Year. So there was all that, and also just putting the whole thing behind you and moving into January was sometimes sheer relief. So I thought that those feelings around January was energy, and was a desire to go. But now, and it was only really last year that I took notice of people talking about a slow start to the year. I'm like, what is this? What is this thing? Is this a real thing? A slow start to the year? And some people will, and I think we have talked about this, because I remember very clearly us talking on a podcast episode about hibernating as bears, and yes. How wouldn't that be amazing? And on one hand, it would be amazing. On the other hand, I think I might feel a bit like, oh, what have I missed?
Yes.
So I think I've begun to realize that my interest in this slow start is more about coming more into my consciousness, I think, and understanding that maybe the energy I felt around January was more about relief from Christmas being over. So it's a hangover from childhood, basically.
Yeah.
And actually in January, maybe I don't want to go. Maybe I just want to be a bit more gentle with it. And that's where so intentions are quite a new thing, really, relatively new thing. And that is where it's come from, on the back of years of setting resolutions that don't last. What about you?
Well, I'd say you're definitely not alone in setting New Year's resolutions that don't last.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How many times did I say I was going to lose this amount of weight? I was going to be better at this and that. And yeah, then several years, maybe even a decade ago, I started leaning more into, maybe not quite so far, but a long time, I started leaning into personal intentions for myself for the year, and how you see a lot of people now kind of having a theme for the year or a word for the year. And I came across Danielle Laporte, who talked about kind of how you want to feel. The desire map is what she had. And it really resonated with that. And we can talk more about that in a little bit. But just so instead of looking at these achievements I wanted to do, it was, how do I want to feel this year? How do I want to be? And then letting those other things come from that place. And that has been great for me. I've liked that. And I've also recognized that I've still kind of pushed, like we were talking about, goals away. And so I feel like the next step for me is now looking at, okay, how do I want to feel? And then being really intentional about, okay, so what do I want to do to help me feel that way? And that's, to me, how I can hook that goal in there.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So the goals come on the back of how you want to feel, your intention, your word or theme for the year, whatever it may be.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. And when you were talking about New Year's resolutions and intentions, it came to me, now maybe this is not quite right, but it feels to me that a lot of resolutions are all about sort of, they're not negative, but they're about changing ourselves.
Yeah.
Or things to, right, you must lose weight because therefore, you have too much weight, or you must get fit, so therefore you are not fit enough.
Yes.
They're all about what you're not. And intentions feel a lot gentler. This is, and often I think we know how we want to feel because we've already felt like that, so we want more of it. Maybe, or something new that we want to try. So for me, the energy around intentions is much kinder.
That is definitely how I experience it too. It's kinder, it's more loving. It's gentler. I don't know. I don't have the exact quality about it, but I know that I can lean into that. It feels so much more free. And versus like I mean, I wouldn't touch a New Year's resolution with a 10-foot pole at this point. It's like, this is not happening.
No, me neither. And it's really interesting. We've used the word gentle quite a few times. So gentle is my year for this, is my word for 2024. I've decided that gentle is my year, is that because, I feel I need a bit more of that. Yeah. Have you got a word?
Yeah, and I've gone round and round. I've gone round and round about it. And actually, I've changed it since the last time you and I spoke.
Okay.
And I think where I'm at right now, and it might still, January is usually my adjustment time, kind of a slow start, as you talked about.
So we won't hold you to, you have the freedom to change it.
But, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think the word that's working really well for me is flow.
Oh.
Because, and so to me, I think about my own like personal energy. So flow, which ties into health and that kind of stuff for me. But it's also doing, like, and creating. So it's the flow of all of that kind of coming from me and going out into the world. That gave me goosebumps. So I think I'm onto it with the word. Yeah,
I think you are. I'm working with your flow as well. Not forcing it,
not fighting it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. Thanks. Yeah, I love yours too.
Yeah, I love mine for me. I love yours for you. So yeah, bring it on. So where were we? I've kind of so we've talked about no, and we've talked. That's right. We've talked about resolutions and intentions, and how we've probably both shied away from goals for all the reasons that we've talked about. So, but now you're ready to start looking at goals to help you achieve that intentionality around how you want to feel.
Yeah, I think so too. And sounds like you're open to leaning into
Oh,
goals a little bit more too.
I am.
Yeah.
So you're definitely pushing an open door for sure. Yeah. And actually, before I forget, you were talking as well about things that are set at the beginning of the year, and sometimes that feels like a big thing to set it for all year. And
Yeah.
and I agree. I do agree. And it's funny because in the community this month, in our community, we're talking about intentions, and it's largely around how we want to feel.
Yeah.
And as one of our lovely community members came up and said, well, how about we revisit them in 6 months? Because actually, 6 months of this being our intention might mean that it's changed slightly. And yeah, so we're going to do that. We're going to review them in 6 months. So whatever comes up for the listeners and the viewers here as a result of what we're talking about, make a commitment maybe to yourself that you will review these in 6 months and see how you're going. And maybe we can make a commitment to come back. Actually, maybe we'll come back and do an episode in 6 months about how it's going for us. And
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm just going to write it down before I forget.
Fabulous. So we'll remember. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I know some people that revisit things seasonally as well, which is another way to do it. And it, ties back to what you were saying earlier, is find the thing that works for you. I feel like in corporate America, it was like drilled into like, this is the yearly process, but really you can make it whatever works well. So seasonally, every 6 months, yearly, monthly, like weekly goal. What is the thing that feels good, and lean into that.
Yeah, and maybe actually there's a way of breaking it down, and you can look at the little things more often and the bigger whatever. I mean, as we've said from the beginning, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
So are we going to look
at talk about some tips? Some
tips? Let's talk about some tips. I love your tips.
I mean, I would say honestly, the very first one is what you said, is leaning into what works for you. And my word around that is intuition. I think as highly sensitive people, our intuition is phenomenal, right? And so it's often about, it's about how do you get to the quiet place where you can hear that? How do you give yourself permission to follow it? Right? It's those types of things. But listen to your intuition as far as what feels like the next thing to move toward, whether that's setting an intention or a goal, but starting there.
And I think that's probably what we're both doing.
Yes.
Well, it is what we're both doing, aren't we? It's like,
yes.
Do we fancy some goals? I think we do.
that energy right there, the way you just acted it out, it's exactly right. It's a like putting something out there and go, how does that feel? Is that what we're yeah, I think it is. Okay.
Told you we'd do some more role play this year, you see. Tuning into my intuition role play right there.
Beautifully done. And that leads into what we've already talked about, but it's truly probably my biggest hack now for goals or intentions is to looking at how do I want to feel. So what we've been trained to do is look at the thing. So I'll use losing weight because, oh my gosh, how many of us can relate to that? And it's in the ethers, right?
Yeah.
So and so many of us have set that resolution or that goal.
Yeah.
So let's say you have that, you're like, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds this year. Okay. What can often happen is you lose it and then you might feel like, yeah, I did the thing. And then nothing else changes for you. Because you really haven't gotten down into why did you want to lose the 20 pounds?
Yeah.
And so when I say look at how you want to feel, it's this process is continuing to ask yourself why. So, I mean, now I can go right to the feeling. I just ask myself, how do I want to feel? But I started by doing it this way. So like, okay, what do I want to accomplish? I want to lose 20 pounds. Why?
Why? Yep.
And drilling down that. Well, and what you often find is, I mean, it could be so that I'm healthier. Okay, so then do I want to lose 20 pounds or do I want to be healthier? Like, Okay, so let's say I want to be healthier. Well, why is that? Like, what is, like, keep drilling down. What is it that I'm wanting to experience? Well, really, I want to be able to feel strong in my body. Oh, I want to feel strong in my body. Okay, well, that's a different thing than losing 20 pounds. What would help me to feel strong in my body? Or why, again, why do I want to feel strong in my body? It's continuing to go down, down, down into the thing. So instead of, I want 10 clients, okay, why do you want 10 clients? That could be an income why, right? So I can pay the mortgage. It can be because I really want to help people. Like, what is the why? Because when we can get connected into how we want to feel, that is a much more motivating place, especially for those of us as HSPs who we feel deeply. Like, our emotions are very present for us. And so if we can intentionally tap into those things that matter for us, allow them to bubble up to the surface, and then keep pointing to those, right? Like, so for you, you're like gentle, like that's kind of your code word to yourself. It's just like, okay, am I creating this for, and for me, it's flow. It's like, because now what I'll be asking myself this year is, how do I create flow for myself?
Yeah. Love that. You're right. I'm instead of doing more work in the evening, because I'll go, actually, no, I don't know, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch 2 hours of TV with my husband. But because that's the gentler option.
Yeah.
And it already is my code word. Yes, you're right. I love that. I mean, I'm hoping I'm still saying that in 6 months' time. And gentle is not always going to be about not working and watching
Right.
TV. It could be lots of other things. But it's sort of like a guiding light, really. It's like blinking at me, gentle, gentle, gentle.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're so right about the why. And why are you doing something? If I may, can I just share a story?
Please,
So
please.
I've my weight has been all over the place. And I 2009, I decided I was going to do something about it, and I went on this, crazy diet and lost a lot. A lot. I lost like a third of my body weight.
Wow, that
And
is a lot.
yeah, there was a lot of me to go. So, it wasn't, I wasn't dangerously, but, and I hadn't dared. Oh, I mean, it's so tied up with all sorts of things. But if I'd clicked into the why, then it would have been, so why do you want to lose this weight? Well, I want to lose this weight because then I will feel accepted and acceptable, loved and lovable.
Yeah.
And those are very different things to just weighing less.
Yeah.
And where I lost all the weight, and guess what? I didn't feel any more accepted or acceptable, and I didn't feel any more loved or lovable, because that was the inside job that I needed to do. And I now do feel accepted and acceptable and loved and lovable. And that is having put the weight back on. I feel very, very different. So getting down to that why is actually really key to making something stick, making it last, making it the goal something. I don't know whether worth is the right word, but I want to say worth moving towards, because big change like that is hard.
Yes. Yes. That was the perfect example, Philippa. That was the perfect example. Yes, thank you for sharing that. And and as people do this process, when you come across something that's like, I want to be acceptable, I want to be lovable, those are outward. It's like you're relying on other people to do something for you.
Yep.
Right. And so I just want to remind the listeners, if you come upon that word, I invite you to use it as an opportunity to then, if it's acceptable that you want to be, I invite you to learn how to accept yourself. If it's lovable that you want to be, how to love yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very well said.
Ooh, it's giving me the chills because it's so, I mean, I've lived experience for me as well. And I think for so many people listening or watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. So getting down to how do you really want to feel?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the example you used before was about, I want to feel stronger in my body. So that's a great goal. I want to feel stronger. I mean, you might want to have some way of how you're going to measure that. You might not, you might just know, you know, you will intuitively know. But that, I mean, that for me has such a real different feel about it. And yeah. Something, and that becomes a real goal because it's something you can work towards. It's something that you can sort of put flesh on, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's good.
Yeah, and like the money ones that you said, yes, you know, we might want to earn more money by whatever means, and yes, it will be to pay the bills. Is there anything, I would also say, is there anything else under that that is not just the everyday? Is it so you can have, I don't know, a weekend away as well? Is it so that you can have, a longer holiday maybe? Is there some other goal that you can put in there that is really something fun, something that you really want, that you can add to that goal? Because that's more also tangible. You know, you will know when you've got there.
Absolutely.
How good is that going to feel?
Right. And as you were talking, it's just like, yeah. So with money, is it that you want to feel safe?
Yeah.
Or do you want to invite more fun into your life? Right. So again, like getting down into like, how do you want to feel? You want to feel capable? Do you want to feel spacious? Like there's no, like, this will be one of those things that is personal to everybody, because 10 people can say, I want to earn more money this year, and have 10 very different reasons for it when they dig down below. And if you can really focus on that feeling, like, I want to invite more fun into my life. Well, it can happen because you've earned more money. And if you've trained yourself to think about, how do I invite more fun into my life, you might find that other things happen that don't involve you having to earn more money, but that fun can still happen. Do you know what I mean?
It absolutely will. That is absolutely what will happen. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. You're absolutely right, because that becomes in your sphere of awareness, doesn't it? And and also you start attracting it. That is what will happen.
That's exactly right. And that's what I have done since I started kind of doing these, how do I want to feel this year? Is I would meditate on that almost daily, and I would just think about those feelings and try to feel them. And I've manifested, like, one of the things for 2 years ago, one of the things I said was partnership. And you and I ended up, yeah. I mean, that was not on my radar at all, but I just knew how I wanted to feel. Like, there were certain things I wanted to accomplish in my business and wanted some partnership in doing that. And that's how I would, like I said, I would just meditate on it. And it's kind of like, it brings it to my awareness. And the step that I want to do more, what is the word? Deliberately this year is kind of what we were talking about, is kind of reclaiming the goal piece, is now really deliberately going, okay. Because before, it's kind of like I would say it and like put it out to the universe. It's like, okay, these are the things I want. And now I'm doing that, and also looking for ways. So for me, it's like, okay, so how do I create flow for myself? And it's like, it's a different way of asking it. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, universe, thank you. But also, what can I do? So to me, that translates into like goals or steps, or like, what can I do? And I'll constantly be on the radar. Like, how do I create flow for myself? How do I, is that making sense?
It does make sense. And I think also goal setting falls in with my gentle, weirdly, because I've had quite a scattergun approach, and my energy's been all over the place, trying this, trying that, trying the other.
Right.
So I feel that having some goals will help me sort of focus, really. Yeah, and know where to direct my energy, which will overall be more gentle.
Yes, I love that.
That's how it feels for me. Goals actually has that, which is strange because I've only just realized that, but it does have that gentle appeal to it.
Yes.
Weirdly. Yeah, nice.
But here, to me, that's the power of being really present with your feelings, right? Because you're able to get, like, your brain's like, gentle and goal setting don't go together, Philippa, right? But your body is just like, actually,
oh, thank goodness. My body's going, thank goodness, some blooming
yes.
focus and direction. You know, thank goodness after all these years. Yes, thank you. Thank you, body, for the wisdom at last.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of ties into one of the next things that I keep in mind when I'm thinking about intentions or goal setting, which is newer for me. And it's something I've been developing the last couple of years, but is really taking into account, you mentioned it earlier, like my own rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
It is planning for downtime, planning for that recharging time, which is so essential for really every human, but really essential for us as highly sensitive people, so that we then have the energy to do the things we want to do out in the world. But prioritizing that, putting that as part of the big picture plans and the everyday plans and the weekly plans, like making sure those are in there. And that has really been a big shift for me, because again, like in corporate America, it was like, do things as fast as humanly possible. And it was just, everything was at such a breakneck speed. And every year it felt faster and faster. It was just, I mean, it wasn't sustainable for my own health, for sure. But I still find, like, when I think, oh, I'm going to take some downtime, there's still those voices going, what the fuck are you doing? This is the work day. You should be working the whole work day. Right. And reminding myself, actually, I need some recharging time, and then I can get back to it again. So that's one piece of it. And then the other piece is, like, when I'm setting the goals, what is really reasonable for me to, like, I feel like I'm out of touch with what, I mean, I'm getting closer to it, but I have felt really out of touch with what is reasonable to do in this period of time if I'm also taking care of myself. Like, I can go, would say here, balls to the wall, and just, and go as fast and get something done. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to also do things in a healthy manner. And I just, like, I had no frame of reference of, like, well, then what is reasonable? What can I do? And I'm having to learn that. And I'm getting there, but I'm still in the middle of learning it, I would say.
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle of learning that too. To actually not have to achieve everything all in one go, and not just because it's on my to-do list doesn't mean it all has to be done today. Or, you know what, like you said, I'm my own boss. So if I don't do something, that's kind of okay, and it'll still be there tomorrow to be done, won't it? And I definitely got in a habit of working in the evenings, thinking, oh well, I'll just get this done. But you're never at the end.
You're never done.
You're never done. And that was definitely at the expense of my downtime. And I love that you're bringing in the importance of downtime, self-care, just spaciousness generally, really.
Yes.
because that would be another goal of mine, actually, to have more free time where I can just, I don't know, see what comes up.
Yes.
Because I don't have enough of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely don't. I mean, maybe that's a good thing. Who knows what wacky ideas I'll come up with. But I would welcome the time for that to be a possibility, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I crave spaciousness too. Like, I think there's some tie there between that and creativity for me.
Mm.
I don't know for sure, but I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Although now we're talking, I'm thinking, actually, I get the ideas. What I don't get is the time to do anything with the idea. I don't get the time to spend time with it and flesh it out and actually make it into something. I think that's where I could do with that creativity time.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, something there for sure.
Yeah. One of the other things I had on my list is releasing the shoulds. To me, this is kind of tied into all the other things. Like, we often set goals or intentions based on what we think we should do, how we think other people will think about us, what other people are expecting from us, all of those things.
What are other people who do the same thing as me doing? Comparison.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of those things.
All of those things. And really goes back to the first thing I said, which is going within to our own intuition, like what is right for us. And what you said at the beginning of this, that it'll look different for everybody. And that is true. So, like, releasing, to me, shoulds are the external trying to come in. I mean, I don't mean that they don't show up in my own brain. They do, but they've come from external influences. Exactly. Is what I mean, right?
Yep.
And so releasing that and breathing into that wisdom that comes from a different place, not the brain, not the external, but that inner wisdom.
Yeah. 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 It's that, it's the thing that lights you up, isn't it?
Yes.
I love that. I always talk about that. Like, do what lights you up, do what feels good, do what, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about here, but having the intentionality around it, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, when you said that, like, two things popped off in my brain. One is all the times and all the messages I've heard about, well, people can't just do what they want to do. Like, we got to, like, that is a message that's in our culture, right? It's just like, we don't just get to do what you want to do. Like, that is somehow bad and selfish and has negative repercussions. And then the other part of me, like when you said that, it was just like, yes, if we had a world full of people, you and I talk about this all the time, doing the things that really light them up, what a phenomenal world we would be living in.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about, is doing the things that light you up. That's not a selfish act. It's actually giving to yourself, but then also to the world. Like, it is a gift to the world for you to do what lights you up. Because when you're lit up, you're going around in the world as a different person.
Yeah. Completely. And that, who wouldn't want more of that? Who wouldn't want more people in the world who are in their best, the best version of themselves, because they're doing what lights them up. They're being kind to themselves so they can be kind to others. And, more of that, please.
Exactly.
More of that, please. Yeah.
And it starts with us, right?
It does.
For each of us, it starts with us.
Yeah, it does. And, we're doing this process of setting goals and intentions for this podcast and for our community. We haven't quite finished that process yet. So we're not being, we're not sharing with listeners and viewers because we're sort of, keeping it secret. We just haven't actually quite decided what those are. But, one that I've brought that actually is a real stretch for me. And this is what I would like us to do. You know, I would like us to put forward the podcast for some awards in 2024. I mean, you know, I want to win one. And that is a real stretch for me, but it feels like, and the more, and I've said it a few times now, and the more I say it, the more I think, yeah, why not? So
and why not?
And that is a goal. And why do I want to do that? So what is my why under that? I totally admit I would like the validation that comes with that. I would like to know that it has been voted for or decided or whatever, that it is worthy of an award. I don't need that award to feel worthy, because I feel that what we do here is good. Anyway, I don't need somebody else to tell us that it's good, but it would be nice for that. And the other thing it would do, it would grow the audience. And the reason I want to grow the audience is not because for me, I mean, it will feel good, don't get me wrong, but we will be reaching more people, and that is our aim, to reach more people with our message around being a highly sensitive person, and, you know, dispelling the myth of weakness around sensitivity, and seeing the strengths in that sensitivity. So that is why, that's the underlying why behind that goal. And hey, who knows what's going to happen? We'll see.
So well stated. Like, yes, yes, I don't have anything else to add. You've said what we say so many times, the reason behind what we do. You know, we really want to empower other people to be their light in the world, be who they are in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So should we just recap? Do you want to just recap, or do you want me to, on the sort of points that you've given us for things to consider around our goal setting?
I will try. Let me do my best to recap. If I've forgotten something, will you jump in?
Yeah, but just as little bullet points as we finish, because we've talked around each one of them, haven't we?
We have. So I think the first place it started was listen to your intuition. Really go in deeply and listen there. Second one was focus on the thing under the feeling under the thing. So how is it that you actually want to feel? Keep asking yourself why.
Yep.
The third was remember to incorporate self-care and spaciousness in your own rhythm into when you're setting these goals.
And downtime. Yep.
Downtime. Yep. And fourth, releasing the shoulds, all those external messages. And again, loop back into number one, which is go back into your intuition and your heart and your wisdom there.
Absolutely. Well said. And we'll put those in the show notes for anybody who who is mopping floors like some of our listeners do, or whatever you're doing and you can't write anything down. I'll put them in the show notes if you're interested to read those. And, you know, let us know how you get on. If you use this process, let us know what you come up with. If you would like to share, we would love to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's us done for today. Do you?
I do. So I think it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Thanks for listening to HSP Connection. If you've enjoyed listening, we'd love you to hit the follow or subscribe button, as this helps other people find us. And it also means you won't miss an episode.
Also, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate the podcast and share it with anyone you think might be interested. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave us a review.
To get in touch with us, you can email us at hspconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you with your thoughts and comments on the episodes, as well as suggestions for future topics and guests.
We are both HSP coaches and speakers. And to find out more about Robbie, go to RobbieLeigh, LEIGH.com.
And to find out more about Philippa, go to boldhsp.com. See you next time.